Christopher Shannon was once on the pathway to becoming the next great menswear designer, winning awards and being seen on a plethora of celebrities, with his key elements being streetwear-influenced designs, color blocking with bright colors, denim, graphic logos, and using fastenings as embellishments. But where did it all begin to crumble, and how did he become the industry favorite in the first place? A graduate of the Central St. Martin's Menswear MA, he studied under Louise Wilson and was fairly active in the industry already, working and collaborating with brands like Reebok, Topman, and Eastpak around the time of his graduation. He has since spoken with Central St. Martin's about how the MA doesn't get you a job after university, but he was working right from the get-go, not only with the companies I just mentioned, but immediately after graduating he was picked up by Fashion East and showed with them in the Autumn-Winter 2009 Man Show. If you don't know what the Man Show is, it's a sponsored fashion show that consists of a series of up to 3 up-and-coming designers who are given a platform by Lulu Kennedy and Fashion East to show their work on a much larger platform than they would be able to alone. Many seriously famous designers have come up through Fashion East, including J.W. Anderson, Kim Jones, Charles Jeffrey, so it was always one to watch for Fashion Week. But looking back at Christopher Shannon's collection, it is astonishing how well branded he was from the very beginning, showing elements that were synonymous with his brand immediately, such as football-inspired elements, oversized fits, color blocking, printed logos, and combining streetwear with more formal garments, all from his first show. Literally the entire collection could be released tomorrow and it would be accepted and recognized as his instantly because of how well established he has been with his vision. Of course, this collection is not perfect, it lacks that refinement that his collections went on to have, but the core elements of his label are well established in his collection and it was a solid foundation from which he has grown. His clear talent for design was well noted and commercially extremely successful immediately from graduation. His Eastpak collaborations, which started around this time, have gone on to span 7 different collections, more than any designer before him, and sold in over 200 stores worldwide. Even Dazed magazine noted the sheer impact that these Eastpak designs have had on London streetwear since day one, as it's still common to see people who have no idea of the importance of the collection wearing the collaboration simply because it's good and yet accessible design. He showed 3 seasons with Fashion East's Man Show, the following 2 being Spring-Summer 2010 and Autumn-Winter 2010, which saw a development on color blocking, which also became a staple of his brand, even if it was started with these grey and navy tones. His Spring-Summer 2012 collection again continued to solidify his branded look, but something I didn't know before researching for this video is that the legendary Craig Green did the accessories for this collection. Actually, if you're familiar with Craig Green's work, you can clearly see it is his handwriting with these structural hats that are very obviously an earlier development of the ones he showed for his first Man Show in Autumn-Winter 2013, and these bag necklace things that are developed in so many Craig Green shows as well. The accessories he created are really complementary to the Christopher Shannon collection as a whole, without overpowering it. And if any of these pieces are still around today, they are an absolute collector's dream. It was also in Spring-Summer 12 that he launched his Diffusion line Kidda, which saw a lot of prints and painfully of their time designs. Mostly the collection was begun because he had so many brands asking him for collaborations, and he thought just by turning his collaboration ideas into a Diffusion line, he could eliminate the hassle of working with other brands' specifications. If he could do it alone, he wanted to do that. He also wanted to take more risks in general and stop using his personal name, which was becoming a burden for him using in the industry. The Kidda Diffusion line was really quite successful too, selling in 20 locations worldwide, as well as online sites like ASOS, Urban Outfitters, and Topman that dominated the web space at the time. The collection was designed to be of the moment and at a much cheaper price point, albeit at a lesser quality to his mainline. Initially, Kidda started out with a similar aesthetic to his namesake brand, with the first collection literally just being prints and ideas that he didn't yet use for his mainline, but quickly as time went on, it became its own thing entirely. However, honestly, the designs have not held up well at all, despite being really popular at the time of release or through until 2014. It was in 2014 that Christopher Shannon became the first ever designer to win the British Fashion Council's Designer Menswear Fund, which consisted of £150,000 prize money as well as £50,000 worth of mentoring from all of these people, though he comments on how helpful Jonathan Ackroyd, who was CEO of Alexander McQueen, as well as Virtu's CEO CEO Massimiliano Pogliani and Barry Mulholland, CFO of Victoria Beckham, were. It was these people that convinced him to shut down his Kidder line in order to focus more on his mainline brand, a decision that ended up being a great foot forward for the brand as a whole. Firstly, because their mainline brand was already more accessibly priced than other designers at the time, meaning he didn't really need a Diffusion line. Secondly, because it allowed for a return to collaborations, and thirdly, because he was gifted with time to show more experimentation with his mainline on the catwalk itself. In terms of collaborations, notably in 2015, he had a huge collaboration with River Island, a massive high street brand in England at the time, for a collection of 11 pieces that was incredibly successful and annoyingly difficult to find on resale sites today. Meanwhile, the shift back to focusing on being creative on the catwalk manifested into collaborations with the now late Judy Blame, who went on to make showpieces like these brooches and these necklaces for his collections, as well as a collaboration with huge makeup artist Isamaya French, who created these eyebrows for the Spring/Summer 15 show. These eyebrows really went viral in the fashion sphere and even developed into having their own dedicated interview on Show Studio with Isamaya French and the legendary photographer Nick Knight, whose work you'll know from Lady Gaga. Christopher Shannon and Isamaya French continued to work together into the Autumn/Winter 15 collection, showing these plastic bag quote-unquote masks that were reported on a lot by the media but didn't see the wider virality of the eyebrows before them. The collection itself was a wider commentary on struggling to make ends meet and the disposability of fashion, but the masks were directly inspired by Irish political activist and musical prankster duo the Rubber Bandits, who often wore plastic bags over their head to conceal their identity. The concept of this collection seems quite poignant today as we stand on the cliff of another huge recession, and inflation is just so ridiculous right now with the fact that wages just are not rising. But as a look, to be honest, I think the Rubber Bandits masks look better than the Christopher Shannon ones do, just in my opinion. Perhaps this is why we didn't see quite as much viral attention for this collection as he did the eyebrows before them. Actually, he didn't see this level of virality again until Autumn/Winter 17, when the models donned distressed flags across their faces. This was inspired both by men painting their faces to attend football games, as well as the Rubber Bandits again. The makeup artist for this collection was Andrew Gallimore, who took the design to life, while the flags themselves were designed by creative team James Thesis Buck and Luke Brooks of Rottingdean Bazaar, who used them to make a statement on the global political and social instability going on at the time. Although this was the year that Trump was gaining power, specifically speaking, the inspiration for this collection was the fear of the Brexit situation, which was also happening around this time. The fear of the unknown as to what would become of Europe and the UK was very rampant, and many individuals and small business owners, like Shannon, were worried about being negatively impacted by the change. This fear is exactly what inspired the collection overarchingly, and is most notable in the flag masks, which used flags from the UK and Europe, as well as the LGBTQ flag. The flags were also not quite glued down yet as well, showing a sense of urgency to the collection, which really elevated the collection as a whole. Really, Christopher Shannon is not a designer that's known for totally reinventing menswear or popularizing a certain look, but he is known for his consistency of style and wearable but commercial and yet heightened pieces. So to have these collection-only pieces like these masks give context for which we can understand his work, it's really smart, and without pieces like this, I don't think the buzz around him at the time would have been quite as intellectual. In fact, he was one of the more popular designers to analyze for this exact reason. Show Studio had panels on his Spring/Summer 14, Autumn/Winter 14, and Spring/Summer 15 collections, as well as a deep dive with Judy Blame on the Spring/Summer 16, and the aforementioned interview with Isamaya French on the eyebrows of Spring/Summer 15, after which Show Studio started to do more general London menswear roundups instead of these deep dives. Of course, this isn't the be-all and end-all of a rising fashion brand, but it does go to show his impact in the industry at the time. It was also during this time that he had my favourite collaboration of his with jewellery designer Connor Joseph, with whom he made this collection named The Comfort and the Horror. This collection was based on refound objects of Christopher Shannon's youth in Liverpool in the 1980s. And as a Brit myself, I just love this take on British coins, and it was something that at the time, I don't remember having seen anything like that before. He was then seen on celebrities like Rihanna, Drake, Louis from One Direction, and Ollie Alexander of Years and Years, who also wore his Connor Joseph collab. So everything was truly skyrocketing for the Christopher Shannon brand. That was until his Spring/Summer 17 collection, which itself was a hit and a good development in his branding, but seemingly not all was going as swimmingly for him personally. He said to Hypebeast that he was fundamentally unhappy with designing, blaming boredom in the repetition of the industry and necessity to present on someone else's calendar twice a year, likening it to being a school. He goes on to say that he was also just frustrated with the industry as a whole. He felt like he had been thrown through a routine that mostly doesn't benefit creativity and instead benefits those who play ball on the fashion world conveyor belt, saying, quote, "I don't want to support a system that I think is fundamentally corrupt." Later in 2017, for his Spring/Summer 18 collection in collaboration with Verdue, Christopher Shannon launched 3 signature fragrances that were said to be inspired by his roots as a Liverpudlian, as well as working-class industrial Britain, which is an interesting choice for a luxury fragrance. The media also wasn't too kind on this explanation either, with Men's Health likening it to a British cleaning product named Cif, who had controversially changed their name from Jif at the same time. Even the collection that followed, Autumn/Winter 18, was literally dedicated to pushing the fragrance, and Vogue still called it unimaginatively named and didn't really review the collection in the best way at all, highlighting Shannon's quote in a way that sounds flippant, and even remarked on how little there was to see for the collection. Which is a real shame, because this is really the first time that he had departed from his usual look, which is usually so identifiable. The Autumn/Winter 18 collection included looks like this, and this, and this, that just don't read as Christopher Shannon at all, and could be attributed to a different designer quite easily. By doing that, he loses that quiet but loud, if you know, luxury aesthetic that he was just so successful at. Of course, he is known for huge logos, but remove the logos and his looks still usually read as distinctly Christopher Shannon. Do the same to the Autumn/Winter 18 collection and it just doesn't. There are 2 exceptions though. These trousers that have extras sewn in shirts and comes in 2 variations, which was first seen in Autumn/Winter 14, and these double-waisted trousers, which I think were first done in Spring/Summer 14. So, unfortunately for Shannon, I don't think the perfume launch was very well received. There has been a second collection 2 years later in 2019, but currently there's no fragrances available for sale on his online shop, though there are, mostly unscented, candles. Clearly he was going through a rough time around this Autumn/Winter 18 collection because he was feeling creatively frustrated and underrated as a designer, which came through in the No One Cares embroidery in the collection. He credits the inspiration for this logo to be the self-absorbed nature of people, which he insinuates that he's just given up on. Unfortunately though, this mentality was a little misguided because I don't think that was ever really the case at all. I don't think he realized where his true genius really lied. He was never a designer that was known for a total reinvention of clothing, like say Rei Kawakubo or J.W. Anderson. His real genius was in that branding of a silhouette. He had that Christopher Shannon silhouette literally developed from his first collection, which he then kept developing on, perfecting it over the years to create a very loyal fan base that knew what to expect and was excited to see how he pushed himself and his look. Since then, Christopher Shannon has not done another full collection and has moved back to Liverpool, where he was originally from. This is why this video is titled The Rise and Fall of Christopher Shannon, but I don't necessarily believe he has fallen per se. Sure, he has fallen off of Fashion Week and has stopped showing at regular shows, but he hasn't stopped designing at all. I totally understand the need to move away from London and do something that fits his work pace and creative capacity, if only for his own mental health. He was clearly feeling some type of way about the fashion industry, so to have the freedom to present in a way that suits him, do drops when he is creatively charged, and generally continuing his business on his own terms is all a good thing. Nazir Mazhar has done the same thing, and I don't think anyone could say that they have fallen either. Generally, I think this era of menswear designers in London has gone that way as a whole, and the designers that have stayed are far fewer than those that are now doing their own thing, which in many ways has really opened up their freedom of creativity. So since all of this drama, he has had a few drops, and it does kind of look like he might be planning a comeback. He's had a very small accessories collection, which to my knowledge was the last dated thing that he released, being explicitly for Spring/Summer 19. He also started these hideous fabric pieces, hideous fabric being his own words by the way, which I think are actually really cool, and even though they are a departure from the textiles that he is known for, it is that departure that he personally is craving. So it's still cool to see him changing things up in this way. He started splicing some of his old designs together to make new pieces, which as a fan who has followed his work so closely over so many years, I really loved. But most importantly, he launched his own online shop on November 19th, 2021. He was and still is selling a lot of his signature look. I guess either pieces that there was still demand for, which he was able to make a bit more of, or pieces that there was just leftover stock for. He began selling candles too, like the ones we saw before, as well as these cranky candles, going along with the brand mockery that he is known for, taking the puns from t-shirts like these to candles like the cranky candles. He also started producing these balaclava bucket hats in signature fabrics like denim, as well as the aforementioned hideous fabric. So today his brand is working on a much smaller scale than before, but a much more personal and self-fulfilling scale for him as a designer. I'm glad he continued to design on his own terms instead of being spat out by the conveyor belt, as he put it, and I hope his brand is able to continue at a steady pace until maybe one day he makes a return to showing full collections again. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to see the rise and rise of Kid Super next week, or check out the rise and rise of Martine Rose here.